It's time for Taking Care of Business on Midlands 103. With thanks to the local enterprise offices of Leash, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Hello and good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Taking Care of Business. I'm Ronan and coming up over the next hour, Ireland's smallest businesses have a global champion and she's just won a major international award. Professor Felicity Kelliher says micro-enterprises are overlooked in policy and deserve supports rooted in real business behaviours. That's coming up in just a little while on the show. Fastway, you've probably heard lots about Fastway over the past fortnight or so after it collapsed, but the real fallout really is only beginning, and I'm picking this up talking to many business people around the Midlands. I'll be speaking in a little while to Cllr Eddie Fitzpatrick from Portarlington, and he'll update us on the latest on, hopefully, on stranded parcels, unpaid drivers, and what support or isn't is coming for the Midlands workers and businesses on that. So we'll get the latest on that and see how that story is developing. And of course, last night we rolled out the red carpet here at Midlands 103s and we celebrated the region's finest hotels, restaurants, cafes and bars. They were all honoured at the sold out Midlands 103 Hospitality Awards. There was also a very Motive Lifetime Achievement Award given out last night too. I'll bring you all the details on that a little bit later on as we wrap up the show. But before that this evening, I suppose, as always, if you want to be part of the conversation on this evening's show, quickest and easiest way to get me is by text or WhatsApp on 083 3010 103, or you can email me business@midlands103.com. But my first guest tonight has just returned from speaking inside the hemicycle of the European Parliament, representing Ireland at the European Parliament of Enterprises. Margaret Considine from Garryhinch in Portarlington is an entrepreneur, a consultant and a member of the Irish delegation for Chambers Ireland. She's the current president of Chambers Ireland too. She addressed more than 700 business leaders and policymakers on some of the most urgent issues facing SMEs across Ireland and Europe right now, competitiveness being one of those key points. Very good evening, Margaret, and welcome back to sunny Ireland.
Thank you, Ronan. Lovely to be here with you this evening.
Margaret, talk to us about your experience of being in the hemicycle in the European Parliament. I guess, what was it brought you over in the first instance?
Well, the Eurochambers every 2 years, this is their seventh iteration, hold a European a Chambers of Enterprises, the European Parliament of Enterprises, where 700 or 800 enterprises from all across Europe form the actual parliament. And it is where the policymakers and business meet and discuss and transact business for one day. It happens only every 2 years and it has happened 7 times. And I was very privileged to be part of the Chambers Ireland delegation that went over. It's
a significant forum then for Midlands-based SMEs. What sets it aside, I suppose? What's the main objective of it? And we'll go through some of your key takeaways shortly anyway too.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's access for SMEs to talk directly to European policymakers who, let's be fair, are very disjointed from the reality of the world of SMEs in Ireland and all across Europe.
Really, because, and again, I think that often comes out too. Like, I mean, people maybe, number one, aren't aware of potential support mechanisms or systems that are there, and they might feel that disconnect as well. So let's say something like this might go get a bridge in that gap too. One thing that came up on it was a kind of a key, I think, outcome from it was lots of talk about Europe's competitiveness overall, and indeed the issues that we're facing in terms of competitiveness, which of course will apply directly here in Ireland as well. What can you tell us about that? Like, what was the key parts of discussions there?
Well, competitiveness was the key issue, and it was the fundamental piece of my intervention, and it is this idea that the strategic pathway for improving competitiveness has been laid out previously in the Draghi and Letta reports, but that the uptake from Europe to implement some of these initiatives is too slow. It's too complex, and it's just taking far too long. So we know what to do, we're just not doing it.
Sounds kind of, we can apply that to many things maybe happening here in Ireland as well. Did you get any sense of why? Are people getting to the why we're so slow to act and actually, implement these recommendations, given, as you said, they're published and they're there for us all to see?
Yeah. Well, just to summarise for people who maybe aren't reading these reports every day, Draghi and Letta say that they warn of declining productivity, slow innovation uptake and fragmented capital markets. They talk about delays in political decision making, in complex regulations and legislative process that really make it very hard for SMEs to navigate. And one of the advantages, I suppose, of this enterprise Parliament of Enterprises, European Parliament of Enterprises, was that it allows SMEs direct access to decision makers instead of the institutional actors having that direct access. So the temperature there was a mix of cautious optimism and yet an urgency and a frustration around the complexity of doing business with the European lens for Irish SMEs, and actually for every SME country.
You mentioned this kind of a kind of a more direct access for SMEs then. What form does that take, or is that something that will emerge from this latest round? There's key things that are practical things. So first of all, we need to simplify everything. But in the simplification to increase competitiveness, we need practical tools. So at a day-to-day level, we need access to finance. So a functional capital markets union that would unlock access to cross-border investment and diversify funding sources for scaling. And that's a huge issue. Digital infrastructure, connectivity gaps, lack of interoperability hinder competitiveness and innovation across Europe, and nowhere more so than in Ireland here. Enterprise Europe Network, we need SMEs across Ireland, not just in the Midlands. Then we need to be able to leverage advisory services for market entry and market growth and scaling, and EU funding that can help with this. So, not just from an Irish lens, but all across Europe. Energy costs, high energy prices are a major competitiveness threat. Renewable infrastructure and diversified supply needs to be invested in. The planning system is the most significant constraint to advancing our critical renewable energy infrastructure pathway at the minute. And then the labour market. So we need increased participation through childcare supports, really strong focus on relevant upskilling and attracting talent from abroad. Much more intensive language training will be important to integrate people in the workforce. It struck me while in Europe, most people there had 5 or 6 languages. Yeah, but like you mentioned things like the Draghi report there, and they're not new reports per se. We're speaking about language that was being spoken about when I was in primary school, and that's not in the past decade.
Exactly.
And even things like the Enterprise Europe Network you touched on, like that's been in existence for quite a while. So is it just more examples of the things that are sitting there and we're just not leveraging them there? Are other EU countries, leaving us behind in terms of how they're leveraging those various mechanisms that are out there?
I don't know that they're leaving us behind. The Eurochambres Economic Survey came out today, and that's a good barometer because it's 41,000 businesses across Europe. And the short line of it is that businesses are treading water, but they're striving to get back onto a growth trajectory, but they're literally sitting in treacle. And while the Irish results were slightly more optimistic than some of our European counterparts, there are 3 top challenges: labour costs at 63%, lack of skilled workers at 48%, and regulatory hurdles at 43%. Like, these are problems that we have known, as you said, that are there. The Draghi report is a 2024 report. It's not old. It's relatively new. So we have a pathway. I think the problem is we have a very large bureaucracy interpreting what to do with it. And we have all of the European countries and the accession countries trying to find individual pathways through that, where we need to be working as one single market. We need to be working as one voice. I mean, the single market here, it matters to SMEs. It underpins Ireland's economic model. It enables frictionless trade and growth opportunities for 450 million consumers. Okay, it has been transformative for us. I mean, you and I might remember what it was like before the single market, but really, we really need to consistently improve what the EPE is all about. And, the challenges that came up in the hemicycle where businesses can't keep up with the increasing regulatory burden, particularly SMEs.
And in fairness, that is something that our Enterprise and Tourism and Employment Minister, Peter Burke, has been kind of very proactive about, is trying to reduce that paperwork and the burden. You can understand it's likely to be a mammoth task as well. But that whole conversation, let's say, around competitiveness, surely things like the global tariffs from the US, things like sustainability and climate action surely have to be discussed as part of that as well. So what kind of impact do those things have? Like, were there any discussions about maybe too onerous climate targets that are putting further pressure on our competitiveness?
Well, there was some talks on tariffs at that, and there was also some talks of tariffs in the Brussels visit when we visited the permanent rep. If you think of it, we're in very interesting times in business. We have from the east, China fighting hard, in invading markets that they were never in before. And not keeping to any of the rules of trade. We have America and the US and tariffs, and breaking all trade agreements that have been put in place, for decades. So we're in brave new territory, and the European Union is trying to work as one collection, a massive collection of, all of the countries and 28 levels of legislation, and trying to simplify it. It is an onerous task, and they're probably, looking at level 6 and level 7 of the simplifications and the cuts to make things simple. But it is a huge task, and I think what we're saying is that they need to simplify the simplification, and they need to get really simple tools that SMEs can access now, today, tomorrow. And they need to be able to break off some of these bigger tasks and just get them into the local governments, into the SMEs, into the agencies working with SMEs, in order to enable them to build bridges to this funding, to this competitiveness, and to these pathways. 90-something% of the Irish business market is SMEs. We need to put a stronger focus on supporting them.
Absolutely. I think 91 or 92% are actually micro enterprises too. And because actually in a little while I'll be talking to Professor Felicity Kelliher, who has picked up some global recognition for her research into micro enterprises. So if ever we felt micro enterprises mattered, now is the time, and we'll hear exactly why later on. Margaret, thank you for coming on this evening and giving us an update on your recent visit to the EU, because again, people are very familiar with their local chambers of commerce. You there as President of Chambers Ireland, there's a direct link, there's a direct communication there with the EU that we need as well. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Ronan. Good evening. That's
Margaret Considine there, just back from the EU, having addressed a hemicycle of the European Parliament there as part of the European Parliament of Enterprises. And there we go, there's a local voice that has a strong voice in EU as well. Well done to Margaret, and as I say, she'll keep up that great work too and join us again soon. I'm going to take a quick break. After that though, we're going to just try and get an update on the latest in the Fastway situation.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Still to come, I'll be speaking to Professor Felicity Kelliher from SETU about her global award-winning research into micro enterprises. But we spoke about the Margaret Considine there, about the importance of SME representation in the EU. We're going to speak about micro enterprises, and we know the role and the significance they have in the Midlands community. We also know what it's like when a business closes and there's a huge impact in terms of local jobs and local suppliers. And it's been very hard to escape the Fastway Courier story. They entered receivership at the end of October. It was a shock and a sudden move, but their Portarlington depot, which is a major Midlands base, it shut suddenly. It left workers and subcontractors and franchisees without clarity. Many then that were stuck, they can't claim redundancy. Many are self-employed, they have people working for them as well. But it goes a lot deeper than that. There is many businesses around who are waiting on parcels to be released. They don't know when they can get them. They're not sure if and when they're going to be delivered. There's so much uncertainty caused. Let's try and get an update on maybe the latest from the ground over there. Eddie Fitzpatrick is a long-serving member of Offaly County Council. He's been serving for over 20 years at this point, and he's currently an independent councillor on Offaly County Council. Very good evening, Eddie.
Good evening, Ronan.
Eddie, just take us away. What's the latest on the Fastway, particularly in Portarlington, and what's the mood on the ground over there?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose there was a meeting held last week. Unfortunately, I was away now and I didn't get to the meeting, but I believe it was, it was positive enough, and it was supported also by the local Leo office in Offaly County Council and Laois Offaly Educational Training Board. They had people there, I suppose, merely just to support the workers and to see. But from a point of view of where it's going, it hasn't really moved anywhere as such in relation to the workers. And I know currently I think there's about 12 to 15 people who are being paid by the receiver at the moment in the factory sorting parcels. But at the same time, I had spoken to some of the courier, the guys who had the vans, the couriers, and they haven't had any information of what's going to happen in relation to the delivery, but they have been contacted by people who are waiting on deliveries.
And it's nearly 2 weeks at this stage, and yet goods are still being stuck there. And I've heard kind of, in confidence from people that there's talks about possibly another few days, another week, maybe even up to 2 before some stuff is actually released as well. I wonder what can be done to try and expedite that.
Yeah, and look, I know that the couriers themselves, the guys who deliver the parcels, are self-employed, and they have not had any information in relation to who is going to actually deliver or not deliver these parcels, or whether they will go back to their where they originated from. No one is sure of this, and it's the uncertainty of the whole thing is very frustrating, I suppose, for the employees and for the workers, and for, I suppose, the self-employed people who own the vans, that they are really affected by this.
Absolutely. And again, even the types of goods that are still being kept there in the depot, we don't know what they are. Some could be critical, some it might make no difference if they're delayed for a while. But of course, behind all this, there's a very human story too, and it's going to have a big impact in Portarlington and the surrounding regions.
Yeah, look, we can see that already, would you believe it, here with the local filling station, and they have a deli there. And I mean, lunchtime come or different parts of the day, that deli would be really, really busy. And, you can see there now at the moment that footfall is not there. So that obviously has an impact just on that small business here on Patrick Street, So, and I'm sure, other services around the area are certainly impacted by this also, But unfortunately, the company just seemed to have turned her back and walked away with leaving a debt of 90 million. But they don't have any assets in Portarlington because the buildings are owned by two different people. The vans they're all owned by the people who deliver. So they don't really have any assets to back up the losses here.
Yeah. And have any moves been made locally, be through local authority or anybody, to try and actually engage the company and try and drive this forward?
Well, I think now look, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think this is the big issue. It's very difficult to get any information on this, and it certainly has a huge impact on the employees who work there, because it did employ up to around 200 people here in Portarlington, and indirectly and directly people have been really impacted by this, and I'm sure that people are going to have financially, there's going to be an issue there also for families and things in the area who depended on the wages coming from that company.
It must be somewhat frustrating. Then you said there's almost like a limbo. Nobody knows what's happening or what the next move is too. So it's very hard to even look at, finding alternative work or replacement jobs for people if it's just stuck like this and there's little or no communication from the owners. Yeah,
and of course, look, it was an area that had sort of built up, Botley Lane Business Park, and it was. There's a lot of other businesses there, but this was a big employer in the area, and it has to be a huge effect on this. But look, we'd be hoping maybe that some other business might come into this area, or maybe some other courier company might come in and take on this, because obviously there is an opening for courier services, as in delivering goods and parcels around the country, because of that, people do a lot of shopping online now, and they depend on these companies to deliver that.
Yeah, I think there'd be no shortage of work as well. I think once we can get those out, maybe there's positive. There might be light there. The fact that the building might be owned by somebody else, maybe something can be done. I suppose we'd all like to see a bit of action a bit quicker, but how that comes and the next step, it's hard to call. But for now, Cllr Eddie Fitzpatrick, thank you so much for that this evening. Really, it's an awful situation. There are so many people affected, and particularly when there's so many franchisees involved, and they also are employing other people, and it just goes down the chain as well. Hopefully we can see some movement and update on that. As I say, many business owners expressing concern to me privately about stuff being held up there, and really getting frustrated, waiting for an indication as to when those goods that are in the depot will be released. But if we get any news here in Midlands 103, we of course will bring it to you straight away. Time for a quick break though. After that, we're going to celebrate the best in hospitality from around the Midlands.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
The very best hotels, restaurants, cafes and bars have been recognised at the Midlands 103 Hospitality Awards. At a sold-out gala event in Tullamore last night, 40 awards were handed out to the best in class when it comes to food, drink and tourism. Popular businessman Christy May, who passed away earlier this year, was awarded the Albert Fitzgerald Lifetime Achievement Award. Midlands 103's Courtney Callahan spoke to some winners and esteemed guests at last night's event.
Hi, it's Philip Marr here, promoter of Forest Fest in Emo.
And you're after winning big tonight here at the Hospitality Awards. What's it like?
Absolutely thrilled, yeah. I'm delighted that the public have voted for us and the committee have chosen us. And I'd like to say thanks to all the amazing team we have involved in the event, and looking forward to welcoming everybody back next summer, the 24th of July next year, bigger and better, and looking forward to seeing everybody.
And Forest Fest is going on in the Midlands the last few years now. It's a brilliant festival that's become so popular. You have a big event coming up in the next few weeks, I believe, to announce something special for it.
Yeah, our launch night is on in Whelan's in Dublin on the 20th of November, and we're going to be launching our first 10 or 12 acts. So people should keep an eye out and ears open for that one.
I'm Marco. I'm the general manager at Kinity Castle Hotel. This was great. We won the award for the best restaurant, the Schlidala restaurant at Kinity Castle Hotel. So.
And what do you think is the secret to having such a good restaurant?
I think it's all about the team, the quality of the products, the fresh, use local producers. So that's the main thing to get the quality.
What do you think is special about Kinity?
Oh, it's all the history, all the character of the building, the people is the most important that we have, but I think those are the key things. We're enjoying, we're really enjoying.
I'm Trevor Byrne from Scanlon's Main Street, Kinnegad. Just after winning Restaurant Manager of the Year.
How does it feel?
Absolutely fantastic, but without our team behind us, I'm only the front of it. So we need our team, so it's for them as well.
What's it like working behind the scenes? Because I can imagine there's a lot of work that goes into it to get to here tonight.
That's why I have no hair left. It's long hours, big commitment. We've been here the last 7 or 8 years since it started, and tonight is actually a great atmosphere, brilliant buzz, and it's great to be here again.
My name's Emma Fagan. I'm from the Shamrock Lodge Hotel in Athlone.
And she won a fabulous award here tonight. Tell me about the work that goes into something like this and how much it means to you to win it.
Well, I'm shocked and I wasn't expecting it at all, because it was a very strong category looking at the competitors, so I was very honoured to be in that category. And it means a lot, it's great, because the hard work that goes into it, it's it's a couple's big day, and it's important to them that it's as memorable and unforgettable as possible. So I'm happy to be part of it, and this is just lovely to get a little tap on the shoulder, well done, and stuff like that. Having a fabulous night, it's great fun, the atmosphere is brilliant. Just from the very beginning when you arrived, the music to now, in between everything, it's just really fun. It's great for a Monday.
Nicola Scally, Tullamore Dew Visitor Experience Manager. We're absolutely delighted with the achievement. It's great. So we opened in March 2022, and we've gone from strength to strength in our new location out at the distillery. We're absolutely so proud to receive this award.
Hi, my name is Kaz Mooney, and I'm a judge here at Midlands 103 Hospitality Awards. I'm very excited to be a judge.
And what's the experience been like so far this year, Kaz?
It's been difficult this year. There's so many amazing businesses out there. It's been a tough competition.
And what was it like? I can imagine it was very, very tough trying to pick a winner from the brilliant people who were entering the awards.
So tough, but we were so lucky this year. We got so much information, which made it a bit easier to find out who we were judging this year and pick the favourites.
And what were you looking for when you were judging?
I was looking for hospitality, the best hospitality, and really for those that stood out.
Donal O'Gorman, owner of O'Gorman's Park, Community Portlaoise. It's fabulous. Anytime you come over to the awards here, it's a great night anyway. It's beyond everything that we expect. Our staff are fabulous. They look after the whole lot of it. Rose and Mary, they're the two managers in charge tonight. They keep the shop running.
So a lot of hard work that goes into it.
A lot of hard work goes into it, but then anything that you're going to do well takes hard work, doesn't it?
That's it. And what's the night been like so far here tonight? There's been a great buzz about.
Having a fabulous time. I mean, you do it in style, in all fairness. Midlands do it in style. And the hotel here has put up fabulous food as well. So it's a great night so far. With a bit of luck, we might get asked back.
My name is Chloe, and I'm the manager of Cafe Nero. Cafe Nero's been around a long time, and it's about time we got some recognition for the hard work we do. And not without this woman, we wouldn't do it. She's our area manager, she's the reason we're here.
I opened that store 6 years ago, and the mission was Midlands hospitality to a big brand, and to see the people I've passed the baton to after, our wonderful manager Chloe. Carol's been with me since day one 6 years ago, and Kasia, who has joined us, who's going to be a store manager for us someday. It's about community, it's about empowering people, it's about diversity, and we're very, very grateful. Thank you so much.
And can you tell me a bit about the hard work that goes in behind the scene? Because I can see by you that it's so emotional for you to be here tonight, to be able to win this award, and it's lovely to see that it means so much. So give us a glimpse into behind the scenes of a day with the hard work that you do.
I think it comes from, the reason why we're emotional is because I always say it's because we care. So it's about caring for our customers, it's caring for the people we work with. It's not an easy job, it's a physical job, it's dealing with the public, and it's also embracing the public. But the people who come into our store every day, and Carol will back me up, it's very special. We're a family and we work hard, but we look after each other, and it really does mean the world.
Hi, I'm Siobhan, and Albert Fitzgerald was my husband.
So you have a very special connection to Midlands 103.
Midlands 103 was our lives. I actually came here because of Albert and because of Midlands 103. I will never forget the day we were living in Sandyford in Dublin, and he said to me, I want to get back into radio. He had been sales manager with 96 FM, and he sat at our kitchen table and he said, they want me to go down to Tullamore. Joe Yerk has asked me to be sales manager of Radio 3, and I want to do it. And I said, well, you're going on your own for the moment. We were engaged. I was very happy teaching in Dublin and Tala. And he came down here for 2 years, and he absolutely loved Tullamore, and he loved radio, he loved the radio business, and what I think he loved more than anything was the broad base of sale. He could access so many different types of people. Fiona Mitchell, who worked in Midlands for a little while, said that Albert was a force of nature. The hospitalities was one of the things that he drew on, an idea created somewhere else to bring revenue into the station. I cannot tell you how much it touches me to be at such a vibrant event and to see his legacy live on. Christy May was involved in Radio 3, and he was on the board of Midlands, Tyndall Radio, before he died. Until he died. So tonight also is very special from that point of view. There are so many things I can say about radio.
It's so lovely to hear that, and to hear the celebration of Albert's life and his legacy here. What does it mean to you to be able to see it and to see it passed down through generations like this as well?
I think that when somebody has a talent, it becomes a gift that keeps giving. You don't force it. If we were out, people were always asking us, giving out about who was on or whatever was said on Rare. And when they asked Albert what he did on Midlands, he said, I read the obituaries. He never ever publicised what he did or the position he held. He always wanted what happened in the station to benefit everybody. The people who worked there, the community who listened, and most of all the people who invested in the advertising and got return for what they delivered. Albert brought the radio into the community through Rotary and through all of the other projects. He was a founding president of Rotary in Tullamore, and they did so much. So I know that Albert's legacy will live on, and we're very proud of everything he's ever done.
You're listening to Siobhan Fitzgerald there, the wife of the late Albert Fitzgerald, our former MD, speaking at the Midlands 103 Hospitality Awards last night. Christy May was the recipient of the Albert Award for Lifetime Achievement. He leaves a lasting legacy around the Midlands. All of the winners are listed on midlands103.com, and if you just keep a look on social media there, you'll see all those various winners too.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
CRO statistics from 2021 showed 92.6% of all enterprises in the country were micro enterprises employing 10 or less people, and they made up 27.6% of all persons employed. 6.1% were small businesses employing 10 to 249 people, and medium businesses with over 250 people making up another 1.1%. This highlights the critical importance of micro enterprises in the country and in the Midlands. A researcher in the South Eastern Technological University recently collected a global award for their research into micro enterprises, in particular research-led supports for micro enterprises. I'm delighted to be joined on Taking Care of Business this evening by Professor Felicity Kelliher.
Thank you very much, Ronan. I'm delighted to join you.
The role of the micro-enterprise, I've hit on some statistics there. Do we still, though, maybe collectively underestimate how crucial micro-enterprises are to our economy?
I think we probably do, Ronan, not only our economy but our society. So as you said, there's 325,000 micro-enterprises across Ireland. When you walk down your main street of any village or town, or even as you drive through rural locations, anything you see with a name over the door is most likely a micro-enterprise. So in that way, they are deeply important to the fabric of our society, to our economy, and to our capacity to live where we wish, because particularly in rural Ireland, the vast majority of employment in rural Ireland is provided by micro-enterprises.
And those statistics are frequently backed up, as I say, by those CRO stats too. And I think sometimes there's a tendency to maybe play up the size of companies to be a bit bigger, that maybe we don't like to be called a micro-enterprise, but the stats are there and that's where so many companies fit. How long have you been involved in researching micro-enterprises then? I suppose, how did it all start and what drew you to that area of research in the first place?
Well, I was raised in a family business. While it wasn't a micro-enterprise by the time I was born, of course, the founders, several generations back from me, started out as just one or two and then grew. But also I've been particularly interested in the capacity to support micro-enterprises because, as you say, there is this tendency towards growth and this attraction towards size, but small is beautiful. And they provide over 500,000 jobs across Ireland collectively. So my view is that better 100 companies that employ 10 each in a community in terms of sustainability than one company that employs 1,000. And I've been working with micro-enterprises for 25 years. So I'm really delighted to accept this award, not on my behalf, but on the behalf of all those businesses that I've been very fortunate to work with over the years.
If we look back to just last week, where a global US company, Amazon Web Services, announced they would probably make significant job cuts, but 140,000 people across the world, it really backs up that point that if we can create smaller enterprises and continue to create them, it provides for longer, more vibrant, sustainable communities too. In your own research, what particular areas have you focused on over the years?
My own research, I focus on management capability development. So a micro-entrepreneur, once they've established their business, and particularly once they employ people, will have a certain amount of capacity building for themselves to be able to sustain that business and grow to the size they wish. So we have many micro-enterprises who are very contributory but have decided against growing beyond the boundaries of microenterprise and continue to develop and grow within the confines of that term. However, they will need and do need support in, for example, developing their digital capabilities now that we're a digitized world. And it's likely that whether they're selling directly to consumers or to other businesses, they will need some capacity building in that space. It's also helping them to comprehend how best to manage their resources, how best to manage their employees, how to ensure those employees are given growth opportunities such that they may actually stay with the business and grow into different roles in relation to that organisation as well. And then lastly, just in terms of capacity building through networks. So, united we're better, particularly in rural locations, because one of the key issues of microenterprise, owning a microenterprise and its management, is isolation of the owner. So the more network building they can do, the more that they have access to both mentors and peers, the more likely that they'll have advice and support and just general comfort in being able to pick up the phone to a colleague down the road who has their own business and say, I'm facing this problem, are you facing it as well? And between them that they have greater capacity to say, who do we need to help us solve this problem?
It's almost like the old adage of you need to be working both on your business as well as in your business. And I've regularly covered that in the show where like some large businesses around the Midlands in particular sectors like manufacturing, in the last 5 to 10 years, they've really opened their doors and began to look outwards towards competitor businesses or even other businesses that they mightn't have spoke to in the past, but now they're collaborating with or they're networking with, and it's that problem, a problem shared is a problem halved. were micro enterprises maybe then traditionally more inclined to stay isolated and keep kind of a singular focus and not reach out to others, maybe for fear of shown weakness, or for maybe being shown for not knowing what to do, or for many other factors, I assume?
It's an interesting point, Ronan, because I don't think it's always conscious. I think it's that their heads are down trying to get through the work because they are so confined in their resources. So it can be difficult for them to raise their head enough to say, not just what do I need to get done, but who could help me in doing these tasks and growing the business or ensuring its sustainability. So an aspect of what we do in the Brim-Ricon research group, we're an applied research group. So we work directly with businesses, helping them identify who would be best in their network, who would offer some of that capacity building, but also offer some of the support that they need just to say, am I doing the right thing here? And so I wouldn't say it necessarily that they're consciously isolated. I think it's that time is an issue for them. And yet, by networking, they probably would save more time than they'd use because they'd gain access to the various things they'll need for their business in a kind of tangible way that they'll be able to say, who I need in this situation is so-and-so.
Interestingly, your research also touched on things like the role of emotions in business relationships, and that's an area we don't often speak about or explore.
Yeah, fascinating actually, and it's funny because emotion can be seen as quite a negative word, particularly in smaller businesses, but you have to like the people you're working with, because as a small business, you can't really avoid an individual in another business that chooses your supplier or customer. You're seeing them on a really regular basis as an owner or manager of a micro firm. So what it draws on is helping micro enterprise owners understand what role emotions play, and if they find they're dreading liaising with a particular supplier or customer, some of this work can help them to look at some of the guidelines that we've developed that say, you know, if that be the case, let's break down why you're feeling this. What is it in the actions between yourself and that supplier or customer that's creating this discomfort or is creating this antagonism? Or in other cases, what is it that's creating a positive relationship with that person? So it's really bringing likability to the surface as another resource and looking at it through a lens of saying, how can I improve a relationship? Because as we all know, bad relationships eat time, energy, creates an enhanced stress. So the more we can do to reduce the potential for a stressful relationship, the better for the overall running of that business and the overall well-being of that business owner.
Sounds like something we really should look at teaching at school level, be it at transition year or maybe even before, to really have people prepped for not just the working world, but maybe that route of creating micro enterprises. But all of the research is absolutely fascinating, and certainly it's caught my attention and something I want to explore more. But you've received some major recognition recently that you picked up the 2025 Cllr Celasti Award for your work on research into micro enterprises. Firstly, congratulations, but tell us more about the award. Who does it normally recognise, and what does it mean to you to pick it up?
Oh, I was delighted, really, Ronan, and hugely surprised when I was notified in the summer regarding the award, because it is normally given to, world leaders in research and microenterprise. And when you're in the corner of Ireland, you're kind of saying, if I can contribute something to the southeast, I'm happy with the work. So to be recognised in this way, I genuinely consider it acknowledgement of all those we've collaborated with in the microenterprise community, and all those I've collaborated with among my own colleagues to build the reputation of Ireland as a centre of excellence for microenterprise research. So really the award offers acknowledgement of an extended career in developing the research area and in capacity building for other researchers at earlier career stages.
You're the co-founder of the Brim Research Centre that specialises in the research-led support for micro-enterprise and small firms. If you were to stick a stake in the ground now and say, collectively as a country, from a government level, are we doing enough to support the micro-enterprises that we have out there?
In honesty, I think that people are making every effort on the ground in individual corners, but it would help hugely at policy level if there was greater coordination between the departments. I work closely with the Department for Rural and Community Development, and they've done significant work as being a linchpin between departments. And there's great work being done by the Department of Enterprise with the launch of the Enterprise Hub in simplifying access to advice for smaller businesses. However, the application systems remain deeply onerous for an individual trying to complete these applications. And there's a lot of duplication, which creates this significant barrier to even applying for finance. And I also feel that there could be fairer regulations regarding these micro-enterprises. There's no compensation for their size. They must maintain rules that are equally maintained by very large organisations, but far more onerous because of their small number of staff. The Australian model, for example, appears fairer to me in terms of regulations around small business employment codes. So they have a specific employment code for small business, those with under 15 employees. And I think something like that could be replicated in Ireland to improve the capacity building of micro firms. And the last one I feel we've been poor at, we're particularly good at supporting early businesses and startups in Ireland, but less so in supporting established businesses, particularly those of micro firm size. So once they're over 3 or 4 years, the evolution of the business is up to themselves. And I think that supports, I've mentioned some of the departments, but also some of the other support entities, including the local enterprise offices, who are hugely supportive on the ground, Enterprise Ireland in terms of the innovation vouchers, and our research centre, Brimricon, and you can see the details of that on our website, are large facilitators of innovation vouchers. However, for micro-enterprise, I think there's more can be done for those longer established linchpins of their communities who are struggling with things like digitization, with labour availability, with capacity building in a situation where they're unlikely to have specialists in their own organisation. And we can take a leaf from best practice in other countries across the globe to help to build out a support mechanism for these kind of businesses.
Absolutely. Well, that's a compelling case for support for our micro-enterprise, and I think points will resonate with so many listeners, particularly those businesses that are a bit longer established maybe, and for every reason maybe feel the supports aren't there for them, or they can't access them, or they haven't got the resources to apply for those funds. It's something that comes up on the show quite a lot, but I think it's brilliant to get an insight into the research that's been done. The fact that research has been recognised internationally is a huge achievement for yourself and for all in SETU. For now, Professor Felicity Kelliher, thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I look forward to some future conversations with you.
It's my pleasure, Ronan, and thanks very much for inviting me.
What a huge achievement to do, and what a great body of research work as well. Congrats to Professor Felicity Kelliher there and everybody in SETU. And a big thank you to all the contributors to this evening's show. Kind of micro-enterprise, small business has been a central theme of this. We spoke to Margaret Considine there, the President of Chambers Ireland from Portarlington, of course, in County Offaly, and who has recently addressed the European Parliament of Enterprises. Eddie Fitzpatrick, then a county councillor in Offaly County Council, spoke to us about Fastway, the closure over there, and that story that really we're going to get hard to find some good news on at the minute, but hopefully some will come soon. And we celebrated too the Hospitality Awards last night. Midlands103.com for all winners. Joe's here next. Talk to you all soon.